there's a desperation in the hearts and minds of everybody when something like this occurs. And that desperation is, I hope it wasn't one of us. Now, this is a desperation that crosses all ideological, the entire ideological spectrum and all races and religions. You see it and you pause and you hope, you be like, man, I hope this person wasn't black. God, please don't let this person be black. Jeez, please. Oh man, if this person is black, damn it. God damn it, the DC sniper had to be black. You know what I mean? You go through that. And then I know that's what I go through. And I know people of Arabic, of Middle Eastern descent or the Muslim faith, I know they have to go through that. I know they have to go through that because they're like, man, I hope this person was a Muslim. Please don't, not even, they don't even have to be, they could be Syrian Christians. But if they have an Islamic sounding name, they're all going to be lumped together with radical Islamic terrorism. And so when you're somebody from the Middle East or North African nations, you don't even have to be Muslim. You could be a devout Christian, but you know, the person could have been a Christian, but it doesn't matter. His name was Mahmed, you know what I mean? His name was Muhammad, you know, and so all of a sudden it's going to be all of Islam that's implicated in this. And so every single one of us, whenever we hear about a mass shooting, between the time we hear about the mass shooting and the time that we find out the identity of the mass shooter or the terrorist or whatever we label them at that time, we're all sitting on pins and needles, hoping and praying that, God, I hope it wasn't one of us. Conservatives do this too, but they do it with a different reason and a different outcome. They do it because, I mean, think about it. What's going to happen? What's the worst that's going to happen? See, if it was a black person who committed this crime, then it's going to be, oh, see, all those people protesting the flag, all those people, they're inciting violence. And so we should not say, everybody who's protesting the flag, you need to stop because you're inciting violence and you have blood on your hand. You have blood on your hand. And then simultaneously, they're going to use that not only to silence our issues, our protests, but they're going to use that to allow systemic oppression and systemic racism and police brutality to continue unchallenged. And so if it's a black person, it becomes a tool. If it's a black person who commits a crime or act of terror like this, it becomes a tool used against our very own interest. Hands down, without question, it is a political football that is used to harm our fight for justice in the United States of America. If it's a Muslim person, it's used as a justification for the goddamn war on terror. I mean, it becomes a justification for more Islamophobia. It becomes a justification for the travel ban. It becomes a justification to harm the material existence of an entire group of people. And I was going to say an entire faith, but it transcends faith and touches everyone who's from a Muslim nation, a Muslim majority nation, or anyone with the Muslim complexion, and see the conflation of Muslim and complexion, because that's what we do in the United States, because Muslim's not a race, but we treat it as one. And so I know people of Middle Eastern, North African descent and people of Muslim faith, they're not. They have to be sitting back worried, God, I hope it's not one of us. They have to be, because I'm sitting back worried, God, I hope this person wasn't black. And we worry like that because it is a direct threat to our material existence, not just material, but our freedom, our liberties, our fight for justice, our advance towards equality for black people, and just the ability to get on a plane without being targeted by, you know, random Joe the plumbers for people of Middle Eastern descent. Meanwhile, conservatives go through the same thing too. Yeah, they do. They go to say, oh God, I hope it's not one of us. I hope it's not one of us. Because why? Because what? We're going to politicize it and say, let's get gun control. God, I hope it's not one of us, because those liberals, they're going to try to take our guns. See the difference? On the one hand, we're here on this side worried that it's not going to be us, because if it is us, it's going to be used as a political tool to harm us. and to stifle our progress and to further justify Islamophobia, literally hurting us. And on the other side, they hope it's not us. They hope it's not them, because if it is them, then liberals are just going to use this as an excuse to try to stop future tragedies. Can anybody see how perversely different, not even the difference, but just how twisted it is? And it would be one thing if they would stop and say, I hope it's not us. And then we could just kind of impugn their motives and say their motives are bad, right? Their motives are different because we're trying to just survive and get justice, and they're trying to stop gun control. So even though they're worried that it's not them, it's not really a qualitatively equal experience, because it's totally different. They're worried about gun control. The flip side of it is that they want to be able to use it as a political football. And so if it is one of them, they're upset because now they can't use it as a political football against us. I felt that right there. But even more, it goes one step further. They wouldn't just stop there. Today, we have seen in full force, you know, I'm not just pulling this out of the air, right? This is not just a freaking straw man that I'm constructing. This is all explaining the insanity that I saw today, where before they found out anything, you had people like Alan, one of these conservative media guys, has hundreds of thousands of followers on Twitter. Thousands of people listen to, I mean, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people listen to this fool every day. You have Laura Loomer, you know, who's used to be with Breitbart and has thousands of people follow her, who are all quote unquote reporting that it was an Islamic attack, that it was Muslim terrorism. That wasn't enough, because now, even though they found out that that's not true, now there's an unsubstantiated claim that this guy was connected to ISIS. And so now this is what all of them are spinning around in the conservative media circles, because it's not enough for them to just be concerned that, oh, I hope it's not one of us, because if it's one of us, those liberals are going to try to get our guns. And if it's one of us, then we can't use it against. It's not. They don't stop there. They go one step further and try to create the narrative, an entire narrative for their group of people to exist in and to believe in, because they can't come to grips with the fact that there is just example after example of white terrorism, of white right-wing terrorism in the United States of America. Don't believe me? Look at Charlottesville. In Charlottesville, you had some of the biggest and loudest voices of conservative media create an entire world where it was not really a guy from Ohio who did it. It was a guy from Michigan who had a similar car, and he expressed views against Trump. And so they created an entire narrative, and it got so big on social media, so big that some random 16-year-old kid who had a gray Charger, just like the guy who actually committed it, some random kid in another state was getting notifications at his sister's wedding that he was the murderer in Charlottesville. Meanwhile, he's in Michigan. And this is an entire world that they crafted in order to push the idea that it wasn't them and that it really was anti-Trumpers. I'm not pulling this out of the air and just creating straw men tonight. This is another example of exactly what happened today. Gatewaypundit.com. I don't know why anyone would go to that website anyway, but apparently enough people did for them to get exposed for sharing an article accusing a different man altogether, who had nothing to do with this, in a different state altogether, accusing him of this because they found out on his social media page that he was anti-Trump, pro-Hillary, and like Rachel Maddow. And so they ran an article saying that this was an anti-Trump attack. And of course, once they found out that they were wrong, they had to pull the article. And the funniest thing, if you go to gatewaypundit.com, I'm pretty sure it's still up, and you look for that particular article, the slug is still the same, right? They try to scrub the page. They deleted the article, but the slug, the URL is the same. And then it says, if you're having a hard time reading the font, because the page is all intentionally messed up, if you have a hard time reading the font, refresh your cache or clear your cache. And I thought, why would clearing my cache fix the font? Oh, it wouldn't fix the font. That would just clear out any. So you go to Google and look at it, and look at Google Cache, And there's a website, there's a page showing you that they've spent the entire morning crafting and pushing a narrative that it was a Hillary Clinton supporter who committed this act of terrorism. Why does it matter? It matters because this should show you what we're fighting against on the opposite side of the equation. We're not just fighting for gun rights against people who don't want gun rights. We're fighting for we're fighting for gun control rather against people who don't want gun control. We're fighting for gun control while they're fighting for silencers. We're hoping that these incidents are not Black people or people of Middle Eastern, North African descent, because we know that if it is one of us, it's going to be used to hurt us. Meanwhile, they are crafting narratives to make it us, even though it's not us, because it's all a political game to them. It's all a game to them, and they're more interested in winning. I don't know why. Here's the last thing, and this. Why would you do that to yourself? And you know full and damn well that you're going to be exposed. It's only a matter of time before, oh, wait a minute. That's why. Because they know that they have an audience in conservatism such that if they sow this idea first, then you're going to have hundreds of thousands of conservatives across the country trying to justify in their brains the fact that somehow, some way, this is the fault of liberals. Because the first thing that happened when they woke up is they went to their trusted media source, they went to their trusted radio host, and they saw that their radio host and their trusted media source said that it was a Hillary Clinton supporter. And so when they find out it's not a Hillary Clinton supporter or a progressive or a liberal, they just it's all a wash. It becomes murky. It becomes muddy. It's not clear cut. This is, if it was one or two cases of this, it wouldn't be worth talking about because it's so ridiculous. It's ridiculous to even try to figure out how to explain this. But the case after case after case, time after time after time, you have an entire, third string conservative media push to make it. Not just hope. I'm hoping that it wasn't a Black person. Muslims are hoping that it wasn't a person from the Middle East and North African nation or a Muslim. We're hoping that. It's not that they're just hoping that it wasn't a conservative. They're actively trying to sow enough misinformation in the public circle, in the public eye, in the public square, such that once the truth comes out, it all becomes muddied and becomes a wash. Why? Well, like I said, if it was one of them, they feel like, which is the worst thing that's going to happen to them, we're going to go for gun control. If it's one of them, then it becomes something that they can't turn around and blame us for. So they lose a political football. And there was a third one, but it escapes me. 857-600-0518. If you want to weigh in on the discussion. If it's one of them, they just have to come to grips with the reality that you're more likely to die from a guy named Mike than Muhammad in the United States of America. I mean, that's just a statistical fact.